Hi, welcome to the In Retrospect KE podcast, where marriage meets knowledge. And welcome back to this wonderful conversation we have spoken about in the previous episode. In the previous video, we've spoken about attachment styles, and we want to introduce to you something that you are all very familiar to, temperaments. And then at the somewhere in the conversation, we are going to tie it all together. So how do temperaments and how do our attachment styles come together and influence how we do our romantic relationships, how we do marriage? And I think a lot of things will start to make sense, even in terms of the struggles, the constant fights that you might be having in your romantic relationships, the recurring, the constant thorn in your flesh. That is probably where we're going to be discussing that. So now we're going to talk about the temperaments. So Grace will tell us more about that.
Right. So as a way of introduction, a temperament is that part of your personality that interacts with information in the world. So you might call it your world view. So it's the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave. So your thoughts are going to influence how you feel, and then how you feel is going to influence how you act. So that's what a temperament is. And therefore, within that temperament, you have something we call thought patterns. So when that milk spills, there is a way mom is going to think about the spilled milk and the child who spilled the milk and what it means. And that is going to trigger emotions, and those emotions are going to trigger a behavior. And then after that, it will just escalate into whatever it's going to be. So usually, and we have seen this written somewhere, quotes like 10% of what you experience in life is the event, and 90% is how you interpret the event.
It's a perception of it.
Yes, so that's what we are talking about when we talk about temperaments. So basically, we have 4 types of temperaments, and I'm going to use the model of the choleric, the melancholic, the sanguine, and the phleg. There are many other ways you can do a personality test, but for me, because of the work that I do, I want to give my clients something that is simple for them to understand and relate with. That's why I do the temperament test instead of the personality, the 16 personalities or the MMPI. Those, I don't do those. I only do the temperament because it's easy, and it is because I have a point that I want to make. I want you to know how you think and how that is impacting your relationship. So when we think about, let me just give an introduction of how they look like. So the choleric is dubbed the powerful choleric because they are leaders, they are visionaries, they are very confident, they are risk takers. And one of the emotions, we normally say that the cholerics have only one emotion, and it's called anger, because they avoid being emotional. Especially with the mashy emotions, they are not the ones who are going to come and do a kumbaya with you. They are very logical, and they are going to think in terms of the goal. So the goal for them is more important than the process of getting there. So that means that the end is going to justify the means,
right?
And so you will find them to be very black and white thinkers. They can be what we call polarizing. So everything is very deterministic. If you do 1, if 1 + 1 = 2, it is never going to be 1 + 1 = 1. It cannot be any other way. So very logical and very goal-directed. Then you have the melancholic. The melancholic is the one who is the analyzer. The means is as important as the end. So they are very perfectionistic, and even the choleric is perfectionistic to complete the goal. Over here in the process, that one we can do whatever as long as we get to the goal. The melancholic, on the other hand, we have to do it right, and we have to finish well. And so they are analytical, they are very introspective, they are very conscientious in the fact that they consider other people's feelings, so they are very empathetic. And then they are also very compassionate and kind. And so they value relationships a lot. When you talk about the sanguine is the butterfly. They are happy-go-lucky. They are very expressive. They are talkative. They are chatty, and they go with the flow. So they are not going to be very deep. They are not going to think deeply about things. They don't hold on to things. They are the ones who forget quickly. They may do something, but if you ask them tomorrow, they don't remember. They are the ones who start one project and they leave it and they start another one. They have all kinds of things they are cooking on the stove, and they may never, all of them, they may never finish them. So they seem to be very, they are up and down. Then you have the phlegmatic. The phlegmatic is the calm, cool, and collected. They are very harmony-oriented. They don't like conflict. They are going to do anything to keep things the same. Now, let me talk a little bit about the downside of each one of them. The phlegmatic, you will not be able to finish a conflict, to resolve a conflict with them. Because the moment you start talking about something, it looks like an argument, they are going to avoid it, and they are going to exit that conversation very quickly. How do they do that? They are either going to stonewall, which is they are not going to engage, and it will show like they are not giving you eye contact. There is no attending to the conversation. They will completely use intellectual something to deflate and end the conversation, or they will agree, but they will not follow through. Then you have the sanguine. The sanguine, their biggest problem is people pleasing. They are not, with a sanguine, you might meet them and you ask them, who are you? And they tell you whoever you want me to be. So they will mix in, they will camouflage with whatever. So people in relationships with the phlegmatic, they struggle with, we can never resolve anything. Communication is very hard. Then with the sanguine is you can never trust whether they are telling you the truth or not. And then, or you feel like you never really know the essence of them. And
with sanguines.
With sanguines, because they are not deep. They are not going to go into that deep space. Yeah. And so just like the phlegmatic is running away from conflict, then they are going to run away from depth. You see, they want let's just be happy. They are very positive. Yeah, very positive. And then as the phlegmatic is looking for harmony, then they are looking to keep the connection. So the sanguine never closes relationships. They will, you may not talk, but they will still look for you. And whatever you fought about yesterday, they have forgotten, and you keep going. The melancholic has a lot of, one of their biggest struggles is overthinking. They tend to ruminate a lot. They tend to play things in their minds, and they loop things. So whatever happened last year and something similar happens today, they loop. Last year you also did. So they can really get themselves bogged down with things that happened in the past they are unable to let go. So they have a difficult time. They say they forgive, but they say, I can't forget. So what they call forgiveness is not real. Because when you think about forgiving, is being able to let go of ever bringing that thing back. But for them, they will forgive, what they call, I will forgive, but I won't forget. Yeah. Me, I call it overlooking. Because then that means I just overlook it until you do it again.
And then I'll bring it up.
Then I will bring it up. So there is no closure with them. And what happens, the reason why they are unable to resolve things and so they stay in their memory is because there is a high level of the need for perfection. If I don't understand, and if your reasoning is not making sense to me, forget it. I'm not going to let it go. I'm just going to say, okay, if you are not hearing me, I don't, the way they say, Yes, you say you are sorry, but I don't believe you are. And so one of the struggles there in a relationship, how will you know that this person is genuine in their apology? And even if you ask them, they say, I don't know, but I just don't feel that they are genuine. Then the choleric. The choleric, their biggest struggle is the fact that they speak before they think. And so they can really hurt people in their relationship, because it's like the way we said, hawana kichungi. So they will speak and then they will say, I'm sorry. But the damage has already been done because they are very intense in their anger. And so that is the struggle. Their bite is painful. They will say words, they will send words to you that make you shudder. And then they will say, but I was just angry, or I was just drunk. I didn't mean it, you see. So we need to kind of understand where we are, because some people will tell me, I keep doing this thing and I feel so bad that I can't let myself off of that space. And then now I will need to work with them on how to develop skills of self-regulation. All of them, all those four temperaments, we all need self-regulation.
Can you speak about what that self-regulation looks like, and for the four? And then could you also speak, what are the needs of the core needs of, for example, the sanguine?
Yes.
What is driving these people pleasing? If it's the choleric, what is driving this need for power or control, or or the flag? Why are they so uncomfortable with even the little disharmony? What are the core needs for these individuals?
So when you think about the phlegmatic, let me just start with the phlegmatic. The phlegmatic, their core need is to have harmony in their relationship. So all of us, the four of us, we all want to be in a relationship. That's the way we were created. Now, I need, as a phleg, to know that we are in harmony, because if we fight, my mind tells me that we are going to break up. You see, that this fight is going to end up in us not being together. But I need for us to be together, and I need for us to not fight. So their need for harmony in a relationship is what is driving that. That for them is the belief that conflict is bad. It is going to create discomfort, and I can't deal with that. So they get very anxious about that, and that's why they avoid. When you come to the sanguine, the driving their core is that we need to connect and to stay connected. And that is why when a sanguine feels that there is disharmony, there is conflict within us, they immediately go into, let me hug you and make everything okay. You see. But then if they are attracted to now we will talk about the other two. Now the sanguine and the phleg, their core, they are really looking at the relationship, that we need to sustain and keep the relationship. But they don't know how to do the resolution of conflict, because they don't think conflict is good. They think it's bad. Now, when it comes to the melancholic does believe that conflict is good because we need to resolve a problem.
I'm that one.
Yes. What the melancholic is going to do is that they are going to bring the issue to the table, but before they bring it to the table, they will work on it within their mind. So they're overthinking, they're ruminating, and they will create a solution. By the time they are coming with it to the table, they have convinced themselves that's the way it should be. So the perfectionism.
You're right.
Now they are not going to hear the other person, because they have already decided how these things should go.
Work out, yeah.
And so what are they looking for? They are looking for being able to resolve things. Things must be nice and neat and tied well. You see, so there has to be structure, and there has to be a nice way to put that structure together. When it comes to relationships, then they are looking for a relationship where they can talk. where they can work together with their partner and struggle through the conflict until they are able to resolve it. Because if they don't do that, even if they walk away from the conflict, they are not okay. And so they will go into silent treatment, they will go into withholding, whatever it is that. So when I'm mad at you, I can't connect with you emotionally, and therefore I can't even have a conversation with you, and therefore I can't even laugh with you. So people come to the house, and I'm happy with them, they leave, I go back to them. Because it's you that I have whatever thing. So even though they walk away from a conflict, they are not going to let it go until it has been resolved.
Right.
So you can imagine now, sanguine and a melancholic in a relationship. I'm a phleg
and a sanguine.
A phleg and a sanguine, they will be okay. They can
right. A male and a phleg.
And a phleg.
Yes.
So you can see how so what they will do, the phleg and the male, if they are the ones who are married to each other, what they will do, the phleg will get very anxious about the conflict. They will shut down. The melancholic will pursue, and then because they can't get them to come, they will also withdraw. So these are the couples who stay in a mediocre relationship. They long for connection, but they are very unable to connect, because when the male feels they are not going anywhere, they actually go into themselves and they go into their rabbit hole, and they are going to stay there for a long time. You see, and when the phlegmatic is thinking, phew, that was close. And so they go on like nothing happened, because, the phlegmatic can just go on. Things are under the rug, they are okay, as long as there is no conflict. You see, so now that is a very unhappy relationship,
right?
Because each one of them is feeling lonely in that relationship, and the phleg will walk on eggshells because they don't want to trigger the male to start the conversation again. You see, now the choleric, on the other hand, their core need is to resolve, is to get the goal done. You see. So let's just stay on these tasks. This mambo ya emotions, and marriage is so emotional. If there is a relationship that is emotional, is romantic relationships. So now the choleric has a problem with this vulnerability. And so when it gets into that vulnerability, he just wants, what is the problem? Let's fix the problem, and we keep going. But then if he is married to let's say a melancholic, the melancholic wants this nice way of putting together the solution and then having the solution. But the choleric is like, no, we know what the solution is. You see. And then the choleric who is married to a phleg, hey, that one is fireworks. Because you see, the choleric wants to resolve the issue. He won't let go the issue until it is resolved. Not that they are going to hold on to negative things from the past. No, they are living in the current moment, but it won't go away until we resolve it.
Right.
While the phleg is saying what? No, me, I'm not getting in there. I am not, and I am not. So when you read research, they say that the two are like enemies. And we know a lot of people who a choleric melancholic that is attracted to the melancholic phleg, and they do get married. So because when they are in the relationship, the melancholic phleg, the phleg will be more triggered in that relationship, and the melancholic choleric, the choleric will be more triggered.
Wow.
And so they are meeting, the choleric and the phleg are the ones who are meeting. You see? Now, if the male and the choleric meet, they will have power struggles, because the melancholic is saying, let's do it the right thing, the right way.
Yeah.
And the choleric is saying, no, as long as we get the end result, it doesn't matter how we get there. You see. So you will find that there will be quite a bit of struggle with agreeing. And Beverly, that the reason why marriages work is because the two people can find a place of agreement.
Right.
Even if it is to agree to disagree. You need to agree. If you don't agree, you will have a very parallel relationship.
And the Bible actually says, how can two walk unless they agree?
Absolutely.
So that really resonates with that.
Yeah.
But funny thing is, we always find ourselves, I don't know, in the wisdom of God, He always gives us the people who trigger the I don't know to say the worst, but
the areas of growth.
Yeah. Well, that's a very diplomatic and nice way of putting it. So when the example that you are giving of a choleric doing a male, can you give like a real life scenario of how this has come into play? I know you have to maintain confidentiality, but maybe you can create a story that would make sense into how these two different temperaments come together, and how this influences the marriage, not just in conflict, but even in other areas of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about the choleric is a go-getter, and they are very self-driven. They have self-leadership, and they are very self-assured. So they are people who don't fear conflict. They don't fear. In fact, challenges invite them. It's like if they are married to a phlegmatic, imagine what happens is that they are really going to pursue a conflict to resolve it. But then the phlegmatic is so afraid of the conflict, so that now they are not going to meet anywhere. So it will be. Let me give an example of. So a melancholic man who is, let's say, he's melancholic, phlegmatic, married to a melancholic woman. So the melancholic choleric woman is a very alpha female. They are, because in the extroverts and the introverts, the phleg and the male and the introverts, and the cholerics and the sanguines are the extroverts. So the stronger of them is in the extroverts, the choleric is stronger or more intense, and then the melancholic is the more intense in the introverts. So when these two people get married and they need to make a decision about where the child will go to school, they will have a lot of struggle because, number one, the choleric melancholic woman has self-drive. They have a lot of confidence. They have the combination of the perfectionism of the melancholic and the perfectionism of the choleric, which is we have to finish. So what happens? They have a lot of energy when it comes to resolving something, to researching something, and to bringing information to the table. Now, what happens? They go and they do their due diligence, and then they come home and they bring the information to the table. And the man who is a phlegmatic male, who is slow, because they have to think about it and they have to make it perfect. The melancholic in them is saying it has to be perfect, and they call procrastination of the phlegmatic, because the phlegmatic is lazy. Mentally, they are lazy. So the idea of, nitaenda kesho, nitafanya kesho. Then their wife has gone and done everything, even spreadsheets and everything, brings to the table. What does the man feel? He feels inadequate. So when he's triggered to feel inadequate, the melancholic picks it up and he begins to feel sorry for himself. So he enters into shame. And what will his wife hear? You never consult me on these things. You go and do all you want, and then you bring me to rubber stamp. When that happens, the woman is going like, but I told you, I even asked you, and I told you I had made an appointment with the principal, and then you told you, and then now the conflict is now not about the school.
Right.
Which is the issue. It is about personality clashes. And then now we start saying, you never, you always. You see, we label. You are too insensitive. You are too selfish. So we label each other, and at that point, our perception of our partner begins to be colored by all these unresolved issues, and the fact that I am feeling that my goal is not being honored by my partner. So each of us are feeling that way. So the dissonance here is the fact that the husband, who is the man of the house, is slower when it comes to energy to get things done than the wife, who is the helper.
Yeah.
You see? So now this is what I normally do. So I tell them, let's live with reality. So the woman is saying, my husband is not offering me leadership. I hear this a lot. And then I have to come and say, reality is he may never. Because you are too strong for him. You see? I won't say it in those particular words, but we will look at who is one up. It has nothing to do with power play. It has to do with the way you are wired. Now, if we are believers and we believe that God never makes mistakes, we need now to stop fighting and we start asking, hey, by the way, the Bible says it is not good for man to be alone. Let us make him a helpmeet fit for him. So if we were to go and ask God, why did you cause the two of them to come together? Then we can probably stop fighting and we actually create a reality that is not going to be based on societal expectations.
So like, how would that look like in this case of like the alpha female and then the flag guy? The guy is slow in making decisions.
So
how would that be resolved?
So this is the way it would be resolved. I would ask the guy, I usually ask them, so tell me what attracted you to each other. Because I want to see if they can look back and see whether their personality they got attracted by the strengths of each other. So they start telling me, and I hear it over and over again. Oh, I was attracted. Unajua mimi ni mtu wa makelele, you know me, all my friends, and we used to. But when I met him, he's so calm. He was so calm. He just, after work, if I just had a drink with him, I would just feel so calm. And the guy would say, you know me, I don't talk much. So when I met her, I was just attracted by the way she thinks, the way she's a go-getter, and I saw that this is a good partner for me. Bingo! Now we have to ask, so how then do you navigate the strengths which have become weaknesses within you? And that in itself causes them to begin to see their personality. Well, first of all, they didn't know it as a personality clash. So they gain that wisdom, but they also gain the insight that, so we can actually use our strengths to make our relationship better. So then my question is, let's talk about how you see marriage in your mind as a man. What is the responsibility of a woman in a marriage? What is the responsibility of a man in a marriage? Let's talk about that. And then now it will lead us to, they will say, a man is supposed to be the provider, the priest, the protector, whatever, the peace. And the woman is supposed to be the nurturer, the one who makes the home and stuff like that. And then the issue of submission then will come in. And you know, we cannot talk about submission without talking about love. We cannot. But these days, we only talk about what?
Submission.
But we don't talk about love. Because where they talks about submission and asks women to submit to their husbands, it also requires the husbands to love their wives unconditionally.
Okay.
And so it cannot be that we are talking about submission and we are not talking about love.
Yeah.
You see, there is a reason why God put in Ephesians chapter 5, why they were put together. Just like, you know, Ephesians chapter 5 and Ephesians chapter 6, it's about family relationships.
Yeah.
Just like when God said, children, obey your parents, he also said, fathers, do not exasperate your children to anger. You see? So when we think about now that scenario, then I am going to ask the man, you are attracted to your wife's the way she is. So tell me, what's good about, now that you're married to her, what's good about the way she does things? And once we start to do that, and the woman, what's good about your wife, your husband, the way he is and the way he does things? What are we doing? We are bringing them together.
Okay.
So once we do that, now we do the skill set.
Yeah.
And it's the skill sets now of self-regulation. When I feel my husband is not quick, then I need to regulate myself, and I need to figure out how I am going to talk to him in a way that is going to be respectful so he can hear me. Because if I'm coming with all my cholericness, I'm going to trigger his flag. And he's going to. So I know what you are asking. How do you do that?
Yes, but usually it looks like the one who's up is the one who needs to come down, right? But how can we challenge like the flag to also?
Yes, that's where I was going to go with it.
Okay.
So what is going to happen? Because always remember, the reality we have to accept is that you are, as the woman, you are the one up. You see? We have to accept
in that alpha.
Yeah. You are the one who is one up. So your husband will always be a minute late. You see, that's what we need to accept that. So it's like this. You see. So what we are going to say is that the choleric woman needs to come down. The phlegmatic man needs to come up. You see. So we need to accept those realities, and we need to find the place where they meet. Practically, it could be like this. So I want us to get our child to school very quickly. I want us to plan early, because that's what the choleric melancholic is going to do. And the phleg male is going to say, tutafanya tu, we have 6 months, we will do it. So this is what we do. I'm going to help the couple understand that there are some things in their relationship that will never change, and they will never be able to resolve that. So let's go with the reality. Let's share responsibilities. You see, so what is good? You in your phlegmatic male, within this space of looking for a school for your child, what is it that you naturally are able to do without being pushed? So that now we say, let mommy go and do the research, look for the school and everything. And then we let dad do the other part where it is not going to require that he be chap like that. You see what I'm saying? So because a choleric woman is going to thrive in having to do that research. But if I had a couple one time, the man, he's choleric. Even before they met, he used to have QuickBooks and Excel sheets for everything. And now he's married, and he comes in and he repeats what his dad used to do. He used to be the one who gives instructions. You do. So now he is so frustrated that his wife is not able to use the Excel sheet. So I said, why are you guys hurting each other over this? Guy, why don't you just take it and do it? Just do it. But he grew up seeing that dad would make the money and mom would
spend.
Yeah, do the expenditure and everything. I said, you don't have to do that here. And then I asked the wife, do you mind if he does the Excel sheet and everything? And she said, no, actually, I would be so glad. So you see, they create, what do they create? Because you see, they are doing what we call the unspoken expectation. And these unspoken expectations, they are showing up within their conflict. You see, so when they come in and they are having financial issues and I'm listening, then I'm going like, okay, that is your strength. That is what you are asking your partner to do. Why don't you guys agree that he can do it or she can do it? So that now you are not trying to make your partner to be like you. You see, you are actually agreeing there is a reason why God put us together like that. Now, when it comes to women who say my husband doesn't offer me leadership, then we need to look at the phlegmatic melancholic man and ask, what kind of a leader is he? So that now you are not expecting him to lead like you lead. and you allow him, and maybe the way you lead is because you actually inherited your father's temperament, you see, and your father was was a leader, and he was a choleric that drove the family authoritarian and all that. But then you got attracted to a man who is not authoritarian. You see, because all of us, sometimes we are getting married, running away, or trying to recreate what was there. You see, so that's how I would work with my clients to bring them to a space where they agree. There is an agreement. Most of the times, the reason why we are not agreeing is because we have carried this baggage of conditioning from societal expectation. A man should be, a woman should be. And it is good, but then we need to ask ourselves, why do we even carry it along?
That's true.
Does it even work?
That's true. And I think most of us are not even aware of those expectations, and how they impact the marriage. So could you speak a little on, now we are getting into the conversation of how these temperament styles come into play when it comes to our attachment styles, right? So let's speak more on that and how that plays out in marriage. Right.
So I will from my experience, individuals who are melancholic, phlegmatic, they tend to, depending now again on how they were raised, they will tend to be the anxious preoccupied. And the anxious preoccupied will mean that they are really feeling like they are not good enough, and so they cannot lose the relationship. So they overthink a lot. That's the obsession, the preoccupation with thinking that they are going to be abandoned. And so you want to look at how you are wired, which is your biology, that is your temperament, the way you are wired. And then you want to look at your attachment style so that you can figure out, because if you're a melancholic phlegmatic, you overthink a lot and you create stories in your mind, and those stories become a reality even though you have no evidence. So we say, huyo aliniambia hivyo because they were thinking, but you can't read anybody's mind. That is what what do we call that? I think we call it magical thinking or something like that. Now, and I'm going now into what we call thinking patterns.
Yes.
And distorted thinking patterns are things that are going to be, again, our brain, the way it interprets what's going on around us, is going to create pathways in our brains that every time I'm triggered to feel a certain emotion, I think about it the same way over and over again. I create a pathway.
So from this to this, even though sometimes the things may not be related.
Yes.
Okay.
But if something triggers anger in me, and when I was a kid, whenever my parents were angry at me, I would get punished. So as an adult, I'm talking to my husband, and he shows by the way he is talking to me and by the way that he is expressing his displeasure, I immediately go to the fear of being punished.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's what so I defend myself, or I freeze, or I fawn. Fawning means that now I pacify him. I'm saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Even when it is not your fault. But because he is so animated in his anger or in his displeasure, you immediately go into a child state because it has triggered the fear you used to feel of being punished. Because punishment at home was severe. So guess what I usually tell my clients? Now that we have identified that your main fear when there is conflict is the fear of punishment, tell me how you think your husband is going to punish you.
That's a good question.
So because I went through that myself, because I think I internalized that my father would, if I made a mistake, or he was aloof with me because he was disappointed in me. So his way of punishing me was to not deal with me, you see. So now this abandonment is what now in my relationships, would be triggered. That if I am not pleasing to you, then you are going to leave me. That is preoccupied and anxious.
So for somebody like that, what do they do practically in relationships and especially in marriage?
Yes.
What are some behaviors from such a person?
So what you want to do, first of all, you remember again, an event happens, you think about it a certain way, you interpret it, you have a feeling, and then you act. So what you want to do, first of all, look at this action. So we have people, if I'm mad at you and I'm married to you, unakuja unapata nimebeba mizigo yangu nimeenda. You see, and we have people who do that. They go to their sister for 2 days.
There's an example of a friend who packed bags in her head.
Yes, you see.
Yeah.
So, and many of us, when we, especially if you are married to somebody who gives you silent treatment, or, because you know silent treatment is so dishonoring. Where mtu tu amekukasirikia kwa nyumba mnapitana tu, akuongeleshi, that is very dishonoring or disrespectful.
Somebody might think I'd rather do silent treatment rather than the choleric who will lash out words.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. What I'm saying, these are two extremes.
Yes.
So they are both damaging. So the silent treatment, and we know there are people who do silent treatment badly. They are not going even to acknowledge you are there. So, but then they are talking to the house girl and they are talking to the children, but they are not going to talk to you no matter what.
Yeah.
You see, you go to church and they laugh with everybody, but they will not acknowledge your presence. You see, then you have the angry one. This one who is aggressive, who is going to call you all kinds of names and and use words to really kind of, break you down, or physical beatings. We know people who have been beaten black and blue, or they have been choked and told, I'm going to kill you. You see, those extremes are very, very dishonoring in a relationship.
Yeah.
And it is not something that couples, if you are doing that in your relationship, please come. I will walk with you. I'm very patient. I'm a flag. I'm very patient. And I will walk with you guys until you resolve whatever is there. And most of the time, what is there is a build-up from now, your childhood, your experience in life, and then here in the relationship where you thought it would be purely bliss. And now you have a lot of disappointment. There is a lot of disillusionment, a lot of resentment, you see. So what I am saying is that we want to help couples understand you can resolve this. So the thinking patterns are going to form from the time that you started experiencing life. And the thinking patterns, unhealthy thinking patterns, they are going to land you in the fight-flight space, where now adrenaline is, when adrenaline is released in your body, it says you are in danger, you are in crisis, please pay attention and act appropriately. Now, when we have adrenaline it's being pumped in our brain all the time, it stops being a real danger, and it just becomes a perception of danger.
Yeah.
So that is why you find people who cannot control their anger, because they got so used to having adrenaline shots in their brain that they are constantly feeling like everything is a crisis. The other day I was talking to somebody and I said, unless somebody is bleeding, they have stopped breathing, it's not a crisis. Just breathe, go outside and let the fresh air and actually breathe and let the moment pass. Because if you do not react in your anger, you give it 5 minutes, it passes. And you will go back to normal if you don't act on it. You asked about behaviors. If you are in an insecure space and you react all the time, then what is going to happen? Your body gets used to it. So even without you thinking, you sense danger, your body goes into heartbeat, feeling red in your face, your fists begin to clench, you begin to feel the jaw is tight, you begin to feel some back, whatever you feel, the stomach is going into something, you see. your body gets used to the adrenaline. Remember, there is a chemical that has been released because you are perceiving there is danger. Immediately you realize you have been triggered. That is very automatic. There is nothing you can do about that. Kwa sababu ulizoea hivyo. So what you want to do is to be intentional to say, okay, I'm not feeling safe. Before I speak, let me think, why am I not feeling safe? Is there real danger here, or am I perceiving something that I'm used to?
Right.
Then practically walk away. Get up and leave the space. Go to the bathroom. Many of us have done that in the office. The boss comes, yells at you, and you want to cry, and you walk to the bathroom so that you don't cry when everybody else can see you. So learn how, when you are triggered, this is now self-awareness, when you are triggered to feel emotions, you are not supposed to sit there with them. You are supposed to honor the emotion and say, so what am I going to do before you do? You see? So allow that. Now, for people who are in anxious, preoccupied attachment spaces, one of the things you have to do is to remind yourself that you are enough. Remind yourself you are enough, because the more you are clinging, the more the other person is going to walk away from you, and you will create the very thing you are afraid of. So allow yourself to start the process of self-awareness and know who you are. Stop living your life through your children or your husband or your marriage. Your marriage is not everything. You have other things. There is Beverly, the career woman. There is Beverly, the sister. There is Beverly, the friend. There is Beverly, the child of God. There is Beverly, the wife. There is Beverly, the many other things that you stand for. And being a wife is just one of the facets of your life. And there is nowhere where God said that when you are married, then you are complete. In fact, he said it's two complete people that make one.
Yeah.
It is no. If you come 50 and I come 50, we are just 50. You see? So the thing that we would need. Remember, the anxious, preoccupied does not trust themselves. They think they are not enough, and their thinking patterns are constantly, if I feel it, then it must be true. So we call it intuition. But you see, some of our intuition is not correct.
Right.
It's triggered by fear. And this fear is what I want you to interrogate. Is it real or is it perceived? Kama kuna mbwa pale and he's growling, that's a real fear. But if there is no dog, but because yesterday there was a dog and today I see the dog and I'm afraid to go out because of yesterday, that's a perceived fear. It's not. So my husband flirted with that girl in the office. And I found out huyo msichana had written him and said, hi dear, how was your day? I hope you are doing well. And immediately I see that that's a danger. And it's okay for you to feel triggered. And then you come to your husband and you say, are you having an affair with this girl? And he says no, and there is no evidence. But now you are living in fear that he is going to leave you and go with that other girl. You see? So what you want to do is to allow yourself to really ask, where is this fear coming from? If it's coming from now the neglect we talked about, you are not given the opportunity to bond well with your birth parents or with the people who took care of you, then what you want to do is to understand that when your husband chatted with that girl, what was triggered in you is your inner child.
Grace, your example here, their husband calling each other dear.
Yes.
That one, it's a different conversation, but I feel like it's warranted. Like, hi dear, those lovey-dovey names.
With who? The husband
and the colleague.
No, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be a problem.
No, it should be a problem.
Oh, okay. So
because now you enter into, and this is why I tell people, marriage, this thing of and they lived happily ever after, it's a lie. It's a fantasy. When you get married, you start learning how to love your spouse. Just because you fell in love with them doesn't mean now you are. You know the way even the words we use about marriage, we settled. No, we didn't settle. We started the journey of marriage. And marriage is, I fell in love with you, I got to know you, and I decided you are the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And now I need to have a long life goal of learning how to love you. And I usually say this, Beverly. When we are in a marriage, we are in a relationship. We have become one. If, Beverly, you have a problem with anything in life, that's a problem in the relationship. Whether your husband thinks it's a problem or not. If your husband has a problem with anything in life, and it is coming into the relationship, it's a problem whether you agree with it or not.
Elaborate that.
It means, example, you are calling a colleague dear. Munaitana dear. It is a problem to me. Because me, I would not call another person
man dear.
So that means, even though it's not a problem to you, because it's a problem to me, it has become a relational problem. And it is not me or you who needs to fix it. It is our relationship who needs to fix it. So what does that say? There is a boundary issue here we need to discuss. In fact, I have some videos that I have done on creating boundaries, appropriate boundaries in marriage. And so even though I am going to, so my husband may deflate and say, you are just very, very sensitive. Then I'm going to ask him, if I call another man, darling,
will that be a problem?
Will you have a problem with it? And most will say yes. You see, then I say, then it is a problem in the relationship. Let's fix it. Social media, posting each other. We go to Mombasa, we are wearing our bikinis and whatever. Then me, I post my picture with my bikini online. My husband is like, no, you cannot disrespect me like that. And I'm saying, hey, look, this is my Facebook page.
My body, my choice.
We are not going to build marriages that are mutually satisfying if we refuse to allow a personal issue I have that has become part of the problem in our relationship become our relationship problem, and we need to fix it together. That is what we call honor. It's what we call respect and kindness and empathy and compassion. Now, regardless of where you are in attachment or temperament, those are skills, we call them relational skills, that you need to develop. Because most of us are growing up hearing our parents dishonoring each other's desires. We are constantly hearing them dismissing the needs of each other. You see, we do not, and then now we are coming into our own marriages and we are thinking that is what is normal. It's not. When the Bible says that we are to submit one to another, you know, there is that once women submit, wives submit. But then there is where Paul says, wives and husbands submit to each other as unto the Lord. So now who becomes the standard?
The Lord.
So now if my wife comes to me and says that I don't like the way you are hanging out with this group of women, and my husband is sanguine, so he doesn't see a problem. He's just having social fun, because sanguines, they love social fun, you see. And me, if I am a flake or a male, I'm thinking, I don't like what I'm seeing. So when I come and he dismisses it, what he has done, he has departed from submitting himself to the Lord. Because I am a trigger to tell him, because I'm his wife. I'm the one to say whether he is being a good husband to me or not. It's not him to decide.
Say that I am a good husband to you.
No. So what, because you see, even the Bible says, in Malachi, where we like to quote, God hates divorce. He says that what he is talking about is how you have dealt treacherously with the wife of your youth.
Yeah.
We need to read that thing in context.
And that's a very good point, because the other 2 weeks back, there's this couples group we're in, and it brought that out. that verse was quoted. It's a book we're going through called Zindua, and we were discussing about marriage. And for me, my realization there was, as you said, we like to quote that God hates divorce, but we never ask, why does God hate divorce? So in that particular chapter, it goes ahead and says, because you are being cruel.
Yes.
To it's like God hates divorce because it's cruelty.
Yes.
To a child of God,
Yes.
to his child.
Yes.
But that is never spoken about enough. Yeah. So I like that you brought that up.
And it can go both ways.
Yes.
Because if I am now knowing from an expert space, knowing the needs of men and women when we get married, there is that book that is written, His Needs, Her Needs. And having done marriage therapy for the last since 2008, I have come to realize that research, even though it was done in the US, it applies anywhere, because I have had clients from all cultures, Asians, in fact here in Kenya, Indians. We used to think that Indians never go to therapy. I have seen they have the same needs that the Kikuyu, the Luo, everybody has. I have worked with Koreans, and I have worked with Chinese. I've worked with Hispanics. I've worked with African Americans. I've worked with white Americans. Even people from England, people from Europe.
The needs are the same.
The needs are the same. So when Dr. Halley, who wrote the book, did his research, he said that men have a need to be sexually fulfilled. They have a need to be respected, which is affirmation and validation, of what we call stroking their ego, but in a way that is healthy. And then they also have a need to have good housekeeping, that they can come home to a safe home, a peaceful home. Women, on the other hand, they are looking for conversation first and foremost. They want to connect with their husbands through conversation. Number two, they want to feel that they are cherished. That's why you cannot call another woman dear and darling and still expect your wife to be okay. At least not in our culture. I know in the US there is the Southern people who come from the South. That's their language. So everybody is darling and everybody is, sweetheart. That happens in the streets. So it's not like the WhatsApp messages. No, you are walking into a grocery store. Hi dear, how are you? How sweetheart, Evo. But that is their culture. So but here in our culture, when a woman is seeing you give money to another woman, seeing you call another woman those pet names, she is not feeling cherished. You are taking away what is hers and giving it to somebody. That's why she's so upset. And then women, the third thing they need, the man wants a good home, a place of peace and all that. A woman wants to feel safe. She wants security, financial, and she wants security physically, and she wants security emotionally. You see? So if we are able to understand that, we can honor each other regardless of how we are as far as attachment styles or even our temperaments. Because these are things, you see, love is very practical. There was the eros that caused us to be attracted to each other. That eros love, it needs to move into agape love along the way. Because then we become friends, phileo, then we become a family, what we call storge.
Yeah.
And then I always say, you are my brother in Christ if we are believers, and I am your sister in Christ. So when you cannot eros me, please treat me agape.
At the very least.
As a child what Peter says, that because you are partakers of the same grace. So treat me, so I'm not lovable right now, but as in romantically, but I am your sister, I am your brother in Christ. God has given us the ability to shift and move along this love in a way that we never dishonor each other. Because if I am your brother and you are my sister in Christ, I'm not going to dishonor the child of God. Because that is when God is saying, submit to one another as unto the Lord.
Okay.
Because now you are hurting the apple of my eye. That's what God says. that you are the apple of my eye. So if I see my husband, I see my wife like that, we can actually navigate this. We can ride the wave
That's
of
true.
the storms of life. But most of us, what happens is that because we have not healed a lot of our personal baggage, we tend to project this baggage on into our marriages. And that is causing a lot of emotional harm to many of us. And I want to say again to the cholerics, marriage is emotional. If your partner is emotional, stop telling them to stop being emotional.
Grace, let's wind up
Yes.
the conversation
Yes.
in two ways.
Yes.
Going back to the attachment style, so we've identified the different characteristics,
Yes.
right? What do you have to tell me, who's the fearful avoidant? That in terms of an area of growth that I need to do, what do you need to tell me, who
Yes.
is the anxious preoccupied,
Yes.
moving forward in order to make my marriage better?
Right.
Yes.
So now the dismissive avoidant, please learn how to trust other people. Vulnerability in a relationship is value. It doesn't devalue you, because the dismissive avoidant is allergic to love. They want it, but they are allergic to it. They think it's going to take away their value. That's why they dismiss and they will be avoidant. So some practical things you can do is to allow yourself to be vulnerable to your partner in small bits. Open up some areas of your life to your partner so that your partner can feel connected with you. You can feel connected with them, and test to see that you are not going to go into crisis. It is okay. The reason why you feel so disconnected with your partner and you are keeping that disconnect is because you are afraid they will hurt you or they will betray you. And so learn to trust people, that people are not 100% trustworthy, but you can trust them. Figure out where is it that I can trust this person. Okay. And don't be afraid of being vulnerable. It's human, it's normal, and it's okay. Even if you get hurt, you will learn. You're not going to be incapacitated. You will learn. And pain is gain, because the people who have no feelings of pain, they can burn their hands, and because they cannot feel unless they smell their hand burning, they don't feel it. So if you are running away from pain, then you are running away from being human. It's okay. The anxious preoccupied, please trust yourself. You are a person of worth. That's why you are chosen by this person who married you, because they saw who you are and they saw that you are a person of worth, and they chose you. And you are not that easily discarded. Don't believe that lie that they can discard you just like that. Just because that's the way you experience that growing up, you didn't feel important, you didn't bond very well with people. Now that you have bonded with this individual in your life, relax and allow yourself to take it a day at a time and start trusting yourself that you are good enough, that you are enough. Look at your strengths, and if you are having difficulty, seek professional help. You can do what we call compassion writing, where you write letters to yourself about your strengths. What you are, really not these things we do at I'm beautiful and all that, and you don't believe it. No, we are looking and we are saying, these are the strengths of me. This is what I have accomplished in life. And please look at it in a logical way. Don't look at it in emotional. And if there is a voice in your head that says that, but that is not special, you need to figure out whose that voice is and begin to walk away from it. Create your own voice. And then if you are fearful and avoidant, you don't trust yourself and you don't trust other people. And I am going to say, you need to do now what I have told the other two. You need to develop self-trust, and you need to believe that that love is not going to destroy you just because you experienced that with your parents. And tell yourself, actually, they didn't destroy me. I survived it. So now that you have choice, the first choice you have to make is to value yourself. Again, like I said to the preoccupied, that you need to start writing down the things that are good about you. What you know, what people have told you, and what you have heard people have told others. Make a list of this and look at yourself in the mirror and begin to say, I am enough, I have strengths, I have choice, and I am deserving of love, until you believe it.
Grace, that feels like would a man, have you seen men who are open to that kind of exercise?
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. Now, with women, it's more easy. Now, when a man comes to me and they are vulnerable enough to be able to say, to talk about how they are afraid and where it came from, those men, usually I will go on what they do. Because men find value in adequacy. So they are struggling with feeling inadequate. Women don't struggle with feeling inadequate as much as they struggle with feeling not enough. There is a difference. Because the men are thinking about the performance, while the women are thinking about who they are. You see?
Okay.
And that is why you see most women will talk about low self-esteem and stuff like that, because men are thinking about what they can do or what they are not able to do. So now I will start with a man like that with what he does right. And we are going to build his confidence in that, so that now we can deal with now his person, the inner. So we go in and I will talk about, tell me about your father, tell me about your mom, tell me about your experience with teachers, and I will hear how they were devalued by men in their life. And then now we start to rebuild that by saying, first of all, one of the things I do is to humanize the people who said those things to you. And when I say humanize, human is to error. Just because they told you that does not mean that they are the authority on how important or how not important you are. So I remind them that is a person. So sometimes I will say, so if it is your father, tell me about your grandfather. And then they begin to see generational stuff that has been passed on. And then I say, if you're not careful, and I'm glad you're here, then it ends with you. So that now your children will experience your authentic you, not this person that you have been told you are. Okay. And a lot of us, that's the way we are coming into marriage, because we have been told so many negative things about ourselves, and that those voices are there with us. We come into marriage hoping our spouses are going to negate that. They are going to provide us a space where we will feel completely accepted at all times. And that is not possible. So I also say, you also need to realize your marriage is not supposed to give you an identity. Because even men, they struggle with identity within marriage. So we say we need to deal with those things. And then in the process of all of that, we are looking at personal vices. Like coping mechanisms now, what I do in order for me to feel okay about my inner experience. So whether it is impulsivity in terms of money, spending money, people who are betting, people who are getting into a lot of debt because of trying to play the money to get rich quickly. People who take loans and they are not able to, they don't have a plan for it. People who are into drugs and alcohol, people who are serial cheaters, or people who have a lot of inappropriate emotional connections with people of the opposite sex, and other vices that we may have. Workaholics, those kinds of things. People who are also in the church and hiding in there and in the ministry to avoid. I always tell people, there is nothing wrong with being dedicated into the things of God, but just make sure you're not running away from something.
Wow.
So that you are not in there and your house is burning. Children who have said what?
There's actually a show, Rhoda Kidula show, and she highlights two pastors. They are so committed to ministry, but at home, things were burning down. That's a by the way.
Yes.
I two questions as we finish. Our generation, we have all this information. We have attachment style.
Yes.
We have temperament.
Everything.
We have a therapy. But for some reason, our marriages are not working.
Yes.
Why do you think so?
I think what has happened within maybe the last 10, 15 years, we have been exposed to a lot of information, and finally things are making sense, why things are the way they are. And like any transition, we are in transition. So we are still torn in between what was and what is and what we want to come out of now into our future. So there is a lot of confusion, and that is why it is important now that you know what you know, you need guidance on how to make that information transformation. So you know about attachment styles, you know all of that. That should give you insight so that now you can unstuck yourself. So if I keep I can't stop looking at my husband's phone, and then we do the attachment style, and then we do your childhood, and we do all that. You gain insight and you feel much more in control, because before you are feeling overburdened and you can obsessed and you have no power over the need to know, the fear of the unknown, you see. So when I come and I expose you to this information, what I'm doing is I'm bringing the unknown to the known, so that now you can rest a little bit, and now we can create now the skill set on how to manage yourself. So self-management is actually, first of all, the mind. You are looking at, when this happens, I'm triggered to think this way. And this thinking then triggers this emotion. So even that in itself, for you to understand your process, how you come to the conclusion, or how you come to now waking up in the middle of the night, you touch your husband, you do like this, and you realize he's not awake, and then you start looking in his phone. That, and then you feel guilty that you did that. That is what we are going to look at. How does your mind go to the point where you act what you are thinking, you see? Then we are looking at what are the things you can do. Now, very interestingly, if you learn how to stress manage, because that's a stressor. So learn how to sit with the stressor and ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I don't look? And actually make yourself not look, and allow yourself to sleep through that night and see what will happen in the morning. And then now in the morning when you wake up, gauge to see, is my anxiety higher or lower, or is it the same? Now, if it is the same, then you know he's waking up and he's going to work, so you won't have access to the phone. During that day, you need now to do the work of asking, what am I afraid of? If what I am afraid of happens, how will I manage it? Because usually we never confront the fear of the unknown. We feel it and we sit with it. And then in Aisha, because that nothing happens. So because nothing happened, it just passes on. But then again, it is triggered and we do the same thing. But I want, just like I asked, what are you thinking your husband will do or your wife will do to punish you? You need to ask yourself, what am I thinking will happen? And if it happens, what will I do? You see? Because that is going to break you out of this cycle, or this space of being stuck in the fear of the unknown. So that individuals, we can start to walk away from playing the same thing over and over again. And if you play the same thing, the outcome will always be the same.
Yeah.
So the walking away, take this information and ask yourself, how can I go into a secure space? Trust yourself, trust others, and trust God. If you are a believer, remember, the way I learned how to trust myself and how to get out of these insecure spaces is actually saying, whatever happens, God's grace is going to be sufficient for me. So whether if I get left, God's grace is going to be sufficient. Because I have been through heartbreak, it was very painful, but I survived it. Now, this is the last thing I'm going to say. For all of us who are afraid of the fear, we have the fear of abandonment. Please remember that the way God has created us, we are very resilient individuals. And we have seen it. because we have overcome so much. So instead of staying in that victim space, ask yourself, how did I survive it? That's where your strength is. That's where your strength is and your wisdom is. And please allow yourself to learn the lessons so that you do not repeat. Now, if you are in an insecure space and you're not married, and you keep seeing that you get into relationship and then by 6 months the relationship is not working and then it's over, please ask yourself, are you getting into relationship, you get bonded and you feel a sense of belonging very quickly before you know the person? Because if that is what you're doing, that's why you keep going through the same cycle. You need to change something in that cycle, and you need to walk and look at it. The young people who are married and you are young and you keep thinking that this marriage is not working, I'm going to leave, it's not working, I'm going to leave. I want you to stop thinking about leaving and allow yourself to think, if I stay, what will I need in order for me to stay? Because your generation is very quick to think, if it doesn't work, it's me, love me. And I usually say, it's good to have self-love because God says you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. So you need to prioritize self-compassion. But you see, self-love is not supposed to inflate you and for you to be enough. No, what it's supposed to do for you is to be able to put you in a healthy space where you can connect with people. It's not to isolate you. But you see, the way we are talking about self-love, we are talking about it in a way that we are saying, I don't need anybody. When we say you are enough, what we are saying that when God created you, he created you perfect. There is nothing wrong with you. It is your actions that we need to change. We need to pay attention to, not the core of you. Because once you have been created in the image of God, then you are complete. If you are born again, you are even completer. Because now you have been made one with Christ.
Yes.
And Christ was complete. He went through everything we go through, yet without sin. He knows the pain of betrayal. He knows the pain of friends you trust and then they stab you in the back. He knows all of that. He knows being alone when you need people. He knows how to be tempted when by the flesh. You know, when he was in the wilderness, sometimes I usually say, if it was today, the devil would not have appeared in person. Angekuwa tu na hunger pains. Zinamwambia, now, why don't you manipulate this business? So kuna hiyo power, and then you are going to feel great if you do it. So he was tested in every way that we are, and yet he was able to withstand. That's why he came and he became God-man here on earth, to show us that we have victory over anything that we face in marriage. Now, what we need to do is to know that if you're having problems in your marriage, please stop burdening your parents.
Grace, you're new episode.
And seek, now I usually say, define what your problem is. If it is spiritual, then you need your pastor. If it is conflict management and communication, you need an expert in that area. If it is just social, we are feeling we are not connecting with other people, find marriage mentorship. You know, that you can connect with other couples. But if you have a problem with mental health, your partner has a mental health issues, a character issue, then seek mental health counseling. And that is where now the marriage counselors, we are there because we are trained to deal with mental health and relationship health.
Okay. Grace, I think that's a fantastic place to stop. This is not even to stop the conversation, but to put a pause to that conversation. And guys, you've seen that Grace knows her stuff. She has been in this space for a very, very long time. And I highly, highly encourage you, if you need marriage support, if you need couples, individuals. She is the person. You've seen how incredible, so much wealth of knowledge that she has. So please reach out to her. We'll leave her office contact and you can reach out to her. But I hope that you found this conversation useful. For me, I've had so much to think about, even in terms of my family, my background, the fact that I cannot remember my childhood. Maybe I need to see her for myself. but yeah, so please do share this with a friend, and let us know what you think in the comments, and of course, like and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Bye.